Howdy folks, Timber Drifter here. So this was my first pipe. Bought it at an antique shop and right over on the Oklahoma-Kansas border. I know it won't pick it up in the video, but it's a beautiful pipe. The whole bottom of it's all bird's eye. Super tight grain all the way around. The stamp that's on it is the Tinderbox St. Ives, and then 7160. That's all that's on it. So, my first pipe, and I'm in the spot where I first smoked a pipe. This was a place I lived for, I think, about a year when I was in high school. And we're gonna, not good light in this position, but the best I could do. Given the location, gonna smoke some McClelland Townsman Cavendish brandy. Doesn't taste like brandy to me, but I enjoy the blend. It's pretty mild, but it's a satisfying smoke with a bit of flavor. What it tastes like to me is sort of like an oatmeal cookie, if an oatmeal cookie was made out of tobacco. It's not sweet. Anyway, first tobacco I had back then was something that a friend and I picked up at a little tobacco shop in a mall down in Oklahoma. And it was called Nightcap, but it's not the famous Nightcap. This was some kind of heavy black Cavendish blend. We thought it smelled great. It was black with very bright yellow flakes in it. It wasn't good. I think it was some kind of, probably, let's say it was brandy topping with brown sugar, something like that. Smelled great. It looked really nice. So my buddy and I got maybe an ounce or two of it, and we came back to my place with our new antique shop purchased pipes and climbed around the hillside here and found a nice rock to sit on. Just really packed our pipes, just really stuffed them full. Just jammed that tobacco down in there. And I honestly don't remember if we were using matches or lighters. I tend to think it was matches. That tobacco was packed so tight we could barely get it lit, and once we got it lit, it was like smoking a fireball. Nothing like this, which is pretty mild and gentle. But I remember 3 days later at school, my mouth, my tongue, and inside of my cheek still felt like sandpaper, but we soldiered through it. And I remember feeling a little woozy when we were done walking back to the house. I didn't smoke a pipe real often at that time, but I used to keep my pipe up in the barn, which was right down here, but it's all gone now. And when we lived here, the barn was just full of old junk. It wasn't a functioning farm. There was plenty of space up in the a loft. And I used to go stand by the big window in the loft and smoke my pipe and read science fiction or westerns. Somewhere along the line I got a hold of some maple tobacco, and I have no idea what it was now. It was in kind of a tan colored package, and it seems like the lettering on it was sort of a reddish color, and it said maple, and there was a little picture of like a bunch of maple trees or something like that. Little soft pouch, and that was a lot better smoking. And I learned how to eventually learn not to pack the pipe so tight. That was back in the days when you searched on the internet for pipe smoking or pipe lighting or any of that kind of stuff. I never found anything. So it was all just kind of trial and error. And nobody I knew was a pipe smoker, so I didn't have anyone to ask. And I actually had smoked pipes before that, but it was never my pipe. It was always at a rendezvous, or that's what we call them, a fur trade reenactment that I used to do when I was a teenager. Sitting around the fire at night, sometimes somebody would pull out a pipe and pack it with tobacco or kinnikinnick and pass it around. So I had puffed on a pipe before, but I'd never had my own pipe to smoke. So I was hiking around here a few days ago, and I made a video. That one's called Walking My Old Trails Among the Stones, and I talked a little bit about some things in that video that I won't repeat too much here. But I talked about one of my reasons for coming out here, other than I just liked the place, that I was looking for a few things, and one of them was sort of a little cabin I built back then. And wasn't anything special. It was mostly just burying the ends of small logs, about maybe 5 inches at the biggest in diameter, stockade style, burying the bottoms in the ground and fitting a roof over the top of it. It was kind of open on the front. I actually found that today. It's not that far. It's about 60 yards over that way. A big oak branch fell on the whole thing probably a lot of years ago, and all the leaves have kind of filtered down over and covered it all up. How I found it was the stone that I had for my fire reflector, which I had sitting straight up, and it had toppled kind of sideways, and I saw it sticking out of the leaves. So that was pretty cool to pick around there and see that. And when I finish up this video, I'll be going back past a spot where the natives that lived in this area used to crack nuts. There's probably see around here, there's quite a bit of rock, these rocky ledges around here. There's a spot further over that way where it's just almost level, and it's about knee high when you're on the back side of it, so you can crouch right by it or sit on it. And there are these little divots in it, about 20 of them. They're all about that deep. And there's some oblong stones, maybe about this long and that big around, up there laying on that rock. And then there's some nice little rocks about, be about fist size, that are just nice, perfect size for cracking nuts in those divots in the rocks. And when I was hunting around up there 18 years ago or so, when I lived here, I found some flint tools, and I took them with me, and I've had them all this time. And a couple of them I already put back when I was here the other day, but then I remembered I still had this one that I'd brought back here with me to put them back. And of course the light's not good. It's real pretty knapped flint. It's got some beautiful lines in it. And it's two pieces that it's missing, just a little piece out of the middle there, about that big. Or actually it goes this way. There we go. I'm going to go put that one back there today too. I had them long enough. I don't need them. I'll put them back where I got them. In that video I also mentioned that in those days when I was running these woods, I pretty much always had a tomahawk in the back of my belt and a .22 pistol on my hip. Well, there's the .22 pistol I had back then. An old single action revolver. It's pretty much worn out these days. It's Italian made. Let's see, Tanfoglio, Brescia, Italy. Just an old .22 single action. This one had an interesting feature in that it had a safety, a hammer block safety on it. It's hard to see there, but it would actually keep the hammer from being able to hit the firing pin. It's worn out these days. The parts don't all line up on it anymore. I shot this gun enough, I wore it out. Thousands and thousands of rounds. And it is unloaded. It's not fireable unless I have somebody rebuild it. But that's the old gun. That's the one I learned to shoot pistols on. Right there. See the color? It doesn't really have any bluing left on it. Still just feels totally comfortable in the hand. And I also have a tomahawk with me from that period. It's one of them that I made. I recently redid this one. When I made it, it had kind of a bearded axe shape to it, and it's a large head. But I recently put a new handle on it and reground the head for be better for throwing. So there's one of my tomahawks and the old pistol I used to carry out here. Unfortunately, I don't have my old black powder rifle I had back then that I also used to shoot out here. Wish I did. But it's really neat to be here. It's neat to be in this place that's so completely intact in my memory. Although I don't know every bit of it, I do recognize individual trees and rocks, which is pretty wild after 18 years. And it's neat to be right here having a pipe right in the spot where my buddy and I sat and had our first pipes. So I'll walk you around a little bit. We're on the edge of a high hill. You can kind of see down there behind me, that's a field, and that's another hill over that way. We're pretty high up here. So that's the rock right there that we sat on. Pretty easy for me to remember because you see, let me get my hand in the right spot right there. You can see light through the bottom of that rock. There's a hole all the way through it. And right there, if you get up in right there, it's almost like an armchair. Very comfortable spot to sit. And you'll always find me seeking the highest point I can in an area, which means I'm always up on the hilltops, or usually I'm up on the hilltops, and if I'm not up there, I'm down in the creek banks or the river valleys. So it's just my natural inclination. Alright, I enjoyed this walk. It's going to be another couple of miles getting back to the truck, I think. I'm going to head out around this hillside and down around a couple of fields, and I don't know if I'll come back here again. So, been a good trip. Hope you have the chance to get outside. Take care.